All right, here we are talking college football again. This is our third time at recording the playoff session because it was so hard to pick teams, mainly on me. Skylar's always ready. I am I'm all over the place with who I think's getting in the playoff. Um, we went through we went through all of these teams, and there's just so many good teams this year. And with the opportunity to pick 12 teams, it gets even more difficult. I do not envy the selection committee that has to pick the teams outside of the top four. Um, but you know what? I'd take that job in terms of it pays really well, and it would be fun, even if people got upset with you. Um,
Absolutely.
so let's kick it off with the a little description of the playoff itself for everyone that's new to it. Well, everyone's new to it. It's the first year of the playoff, the 12 team playoff. So give us a little background, Skylar, on what we're going to see this year.
Yeah, so going up to 2013, it was just the original BCS National Championship. Then starting that year, they transitioned to the four-team playoff, part of the college football playoff. And this year, starting in 2024, they're transitioning to the 12-team playoff. So that consists of the top four teams getting a first round bye, and that's going to be the conference champions from the SEC, the ACC, the Big Ten, and the Big 12. So automatically those teams will be ranked in the top four and they will are guaranteed the first round bye. The next best teams, 5 through 11, will be ranked. And then we'll have the best group of five in the country. That team will slide in at the 12 spot. Those teams will play each other with the higher seed hosting in their home stadium.
Nice. I love that. I love the fact that in their home stadium, they get to host a playoff game on the college campus is going to be rocking. It'll make it easier for these kids with, with little money as they're attending school to be able to show them support their teams. Cannot wait for the playoff to take place. I'm excited. It's August. We got a long ways to go, but we're almost at least at the beginning of this journey. So at number 12, that group of five team, who do you have squeaking into the playoff from the group of five?
Yeah, so starting off at number 12, I got Liberty, right? They had a great season last year. They had a tough ending against Oregon in the bowl game, but they return a lot of talent. I think they're well coached. I think they have a weaker schedule, so I think they have a clear path to the college football playoff, and I have them taking my 12 spot.
Nice. I like it. I think Liberty, like you said, great coaching, uh, easier schedule. They have a lot of things in their favor. But I'm gonna go with one of the traditional group of five teams that always shows up somewhere in these bigger bowl games. I'm gonna go with Boise State, the Boise State Broncos and the Smurf Turf. I think that they're going to squeak in at number 12 and have an opportunity to represent the group of five. They won the Mountain West Conference last year. They started a little bit slow, but they returned 12 starters on their defense, or 11 starters on their defense. Goodness gracious, I can't count. I'm thinking of the 12 team playoff. So that they're returning everyone on their defense, and then they're also returning their starting running back, most of the players on offense as well. They got better and better as the season went on last year. I think they're poised to make a good run. So I have them at the 12 spot.
Yeah, that's a great pick. Boise State's been very consistent over the years. They've always been high. They've always been an 8, 9 win team. And a lot of times they upset a Power 5 team in that bowl game. So it's gonna be a lot of fun to see what they can do this year. Jumping up to number 11, I have the first SEC team of many. I have the Missouri Tigers. Go check out one of our other episodes going over the SEC landscape. I was very high on the Missouri Tigers, especially their receiver, Luther Burden III. I think he has the talent and the ability to win the Heisman Trophy this year. He's very talented, very good, especially with their returning quarterback in Brady Cook. They're well coached. They have a fairly easy schedule. I can't say easy because it's the SEC, but they have an easier schedule, a clearer path to the college football playoff. I have them at number 11.
Nice. Missouri is one of those teams I was very high on as well, but I had to have somebody drop out of the playoff picture, and Missouri was one of those teams. So Missouri fell out of my playoff picture, and in came Penn State. I really like what Penn State brings to the table with Drew Allar. I think is how you say his last name,
Mhm.
Allar. Anyway, he started last year for the first time. Looked very good in a lot of the games for them. I see him taking a step forward this year. He's one of the top recruits in the country when he came in as quarterback. I think he's shown it by the way he played last year. Um, and I think he's going to take a step forward, which is going to take Penn State to a new level. They've always had solid defense, always had great lines on the defense and the offensive side of the ball. great running backs. I mean, oh man, their running backs are phenomenal. Um, I just think that with that heightened level of quarterback play, they're going to take another step forward, and they're going to get a chance to play on a big stage in the playoff this year. So I have them at number 11.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. And this year, even with the major additions to the Big Ten, I think Penn State had got lucky draws with their schedule. I mean, they only played two top 25 ranked teams, and they host Ohio State and they travel to USC. So I think they got lucky draws there. I think once again their path to the playoff is a straight line. I think they have a great chance.
Nice. All right. Appreciate not shooting down my pick too much. Okay. So who do you have coming in at number 10?
Number 10, I'm going to have my first Big 12 school. It's going to be Oklahoma State, right?
Nice.
Very well coached. They have Ollie Gordon at running back. I think he's one of the best running backs in the country, one of the best all-around players in the country. I think he's got a legitimate shot to win the Heisman Trophy. So I have them at my number 10 spot.
Nice. I think that um I think that's a great pick. And I'm wondering if you looked at my cheat sheet because I also have Oklahoma State at number 10. I think that they're able to squeak in alongside the winner of the Big 12. I think that Oklahoma State has a great year. I think that they win most of their games. They only end with one or two losses on the season. Ollie Gordon is a phenomenal running back, and Oklahoma State really had it together last year, and then the wheels kind of fell off about halfway through. They seemed like they started to put it back together at the end of the season, but I think Coach Gundy has the ability to pull the team back together, and that they're going to make a great run this year. One of my favorite coaches because of his line several years ago when he declared to everyone that he was a man because he was 40. I turned 40 this year, so I am now officially a man, and I'm going with the man in Mike Gundy with the number 10 pick in the playoff. So jumping on to number 9, who do you have coming in at number 9, Skylar?
Number 9, I got my second SEC school. I have the Ole Miss Rebels. Hotty toddy. I'm very high on their offense. Jackson Dart, great coach in Lane Kiffin. They're going to be high-powered offense. Going to be a lot of fun to watch this year. If you can, try to catch a game or two. I have them at my number 9.
Nice. You know, I can see that the SEC has is going to get a lot of teams in this year. And I have several of them getting in, but I think that they're going to come in at the same spot you have them coming in. At number 9, I have Ole Miss coming in. Um, Jackson Dart is a consistent quarterback. Lane Kiffin there for his third year. He's been able to establish a culture and a system. Quarterback play is super important, but in college football, it almost seems the system is the most important. Um, Thus, you have these major coaches that are able to recruit and plug and play with players that they may only have for a year. I think Ole Miss comes in at number 9, and is my first SEC team coming in, one of many more to follow. So who do you have coming in at number 8, Skylar?
Number 8, I got the one and only independent school. That's going to be Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I don't think they're a great team. I think they're very talented. I don't think they're at the top necessarily, but they do have a pretty clear path to the playoffs with their schedule. Their toughest game, I think, is going to be week 1 on the road at Texas A&M. They also host Florida State later on in the season, and they end the season at USC. Those are going to be their 3 biggest games, but I think they go at least two for 3 or 3-0 there. So I see them making the playoffs pretty handily.
Nice. We're on the same page, especially as far as the middle of the pack goes. I also have Notre Dame coming in at the next position, the number 8 position. I think with the quarterback transferring over for Riley, or is it Riley Leonard?
Hmm. Yeah.
Riley Leonard transferring in from Duke. He was great at Duke last year. I know he got hurt. I think we talked about this earlier, but that he got hurt in the Notre Dame game actually. So I guess it was a sign to him that he needed to stop and reconsider. So I think with him coming in, a great player. They showed last year they can plug and play with quarterbacks, or even the year before when Jack Cohn came down from Wisconsin, they played well. It got Sam Hartman the next year. They played well with him. So I think that the turnover at quarterback is not going to slow them down at all. I really think that they have a great thing going there in South Bend, and I have Notre Dame coming in at number 8.
Yeah, that's an excellent point bringing up Riley Leonard. I think he was a great player at Duke. He really brought him up last season. I think he's going to slide in well at Notre Dame. I think he's going to make them a very successful team. Jumping on to number 7, I have the Alabama Crimson Tide. DeBoer comes in. They still have a very high recruiting class. Offensive line is strong. Running back is going to be a little weak this season, but they do still have Jalen Milroe. I think he's going to be a great quarterback. Maybe a Heisman Trophy contender. I don't think a winner, but I think he's a contender. I think he's going to be very good with Alabama this year. They have my 7 spot.
Nice. Yeah, Alabama. I think Alabama fans will take a little bit of a slight to coming in at the 7th spot. But you know what? They'll have a chance to show out in the playoff and prove to everybody that they deserve something higher. I like the pick. I think that there's a lot of SEC teams that are going to be in the playoff this year. So only the team that wins is going to end up in that top four. Everybody else is going to be relegated to a higher seed than they're used to seeing. Um, at my 7th spot, I actually have a team that I initially left out of the rankings somehow, and that was the Ohio State Buckeyes. I had to redo my list because I was like, "What in the world did I do here?" I left out the Ohio State University. So at number 7, I think Will Howard transferring over from Kansas State is going to give them some improved quarterback play. I think last year they had solid quarterback play, but really when you're throwing to Marvin Harrison Jr., I don't know. I think I could have thrown the ball to him when I watched some of those games. Um, so I really think that he's going to bring some toughness, some leadership that will help improve their play this year. I still don't think they win the Big Ten this year because of some tougher opponents that are coming in. Um, but I think that Ohio State gets in the playoff. They're at number 7 on my list.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. They're actually going to be my number 6 team for the playoffs this year. You
We
said
plan that. We plan that transition.
oh yeah, absolutely. You said it. You said it pretty well. They're a great team, very well coached. They have the best recruit in the country, Jeremiah Smith, this year, filling in for Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he's going to slide in very nicely. He's going to make some big plays. He's going to be a stud for them. They have my 6th spot.
Nice. Yeah. So I have another. We've got a lot of red and white going on these last couple picks. I guess with Georgia, you might say more red and black. But number 6, I have the Georgia Bulldogs. A lot of folks have them winning the SEC. I think that they're going to drop a couple games. Carson Beck, I think, is a great quarterback, but I think there's better quarterback play within the league. And I think that Georgia, for once, ends up being a little bit outside the 1 and the 2 seed within the SEC. I think they end up in the playoff though as a very high seed at number 6, with the opportunity to host a game, which I think folks in Athens will be happy about. But I have them at the number 6 seed.
Yeah, that's an interesting pick. I think that's definitely going to anger a few Georgia fans. But this is a Florida football channel, so not really sure how many people are watching anyway.
Good
But we're
point.
going to move right on to number 5. I have the Texas Longhorns at number 5. I think they're a very talented team. They bring back Quinn Ewers for another season. I like the addition of Isaiah Bond from Alabama. I think he's going to slide in very well at receiver there. Give Ewers a great target. I have them at number 5.
I'm right with you. I also have Texas at number 5. The stars shine bright at night down there in Texas, and I think whether it's a night game or a day game, the Texas Longhorns are going to show out this year. They were fantastic last year. I think they only got better, like you mentioned, picking up Isaiah Bond. I think they've picked up a lot of great players in the offseason to further strengthen their roster. Quinn Ewers is coming back with another year of experience. He's the real deal. I mean, if he wasn't the real deal, I think that Cooper Manning would be out there on the fair. Not Cooper Manning. Coop's the dad, isn't he?
Arch Manning.
Arch
Arch
Manning.
Manning.
So Coop was the oldest Manning brother, Arch's dad. So I think that he's actually going to. I think Quinn Ewers is going to show out, and even if he goes down, they have Manning at the backup spot. He's looked much improved and beefed up this year. Their defense, man, they got big boys on the offensive and defensive lines. I really like Steve Sarkisian as a coach. He's done great things everywhere he's been, whether it was at Washington, whether it was at USC, whether it was at Alabama. He's really contributed everywhere he's been and been a great leader in terms of bringing in the recruits and teaching them football. I have Texas number five. All right, so at number five, we both have the Texas Longhorns. We're going to move on to our top four. Remember, these top four teams are the teams that will get a first round bye in the playoff. So you're going to see them in the second round of the playoff. These are the conference winners. So for those of you that are like, hey, my team's a top four team. If they don't win the conference, they won't get a top four seed. So starting with the top four teams, what conference do you have taking the four spot?
At the four spot, I have the Big 12, and I have the Utah Utes sliding in that spot. I have them winning the Big 12 this season. The first season in the Big 12 coming over from the dismantled Pac-12. Unfortunately, he will be missed. But I have the Utes, right? They bring back Cam Rising this year. He was injured all last season, unfortunately, but he's back as healthy as can be this year. They bring back a very talented tight end in Brant Kuithe. I have the Utes at number four.
I love the pick. As you well know, I went to the University of Utah for my undergrad. I love Utah football. And for that reason, I don't have them at number four. I actually have the ACC taking the four spot, the Clemson Tigers. Clemson, Dabo Swinney, some people are like, oh, the program's not where it was. They've had down years. Well, you can't win a national title every year. Even Nick Saban had a few years he didn't win the national title. Um, I think that Dabo Swinney, with a returning quarterback, I can never say his last name, Cade Klubnik, I think is how you say it, or Klubnik, one
Yeah.
of the two. Um, I think he's going to be much improved. He looked very young last year, which he was. He looked like he needed to put on some weight. So I think coming in this year with a year of maturity, physically and mentally, he's going to play much better. And surrounding him, there's a slew of talent. I think that they're able to come in at the fourth spot and win the ACC. But I think because the ACC will have some weaker teams at the bottom, I have them at the fourth spot. So going to number three, who do you have at number three, Skyler?
Number three, I have my ACC pick. Pains me to say this, but I have the FSU Noles, Florida State.
Hmm.
Um, Last year, a great season, 13-0. They had a tough ending against Georgia, which as a Gator fan, I love to watch, but that wasn't them at their full strength. So I think this year they come back strong. They're not going to be as good as last year, I don't think, but I think their defense is going to be very strong as always. They're very well coached, and Mike Norvell. I have them at my number three.
Nice. That's a great pick. I know that Florida Gator fans won't like to hear that, but Florida State, it was very good last year. I think picking up DJ Ugalele, I think is how you say his name. We're close enough, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, he showed that he could step into a new system last year at Oregon State and win, which he did. He played very well. Florida State, I think, is going to be a great fit for his skill set. I think he's a guy who can make plays when needed, but can also take care of the ball. I think that I think it's a really good pick. I don't have Florida State on my list because I had to drop somebody out. I'm gonna miss somewhere. But at number three, I have the Utah Utes. Obviously, I went to school there, like I said. I love what they have coming back. I mean, Cam Rising's like 30 years old now, with the COVID year, the medical red shirt years. I mean, he's been around Salt Lake City. He's only like 24, 25, but he's been around Salt Lake City for a long time. He is, as Kyle Whittingham would say, the alpha dog. He's the guy that the team revolves around. Last year, without Cam Rising, they were playing. They were on their third and fourth string quarterbacks, and they still ended up winning, I think, 8 games last year. And that to me was impressive because it showed me how good the rest of the team was. You bring back Cam Rising and you put Brant Kuithe in as well, who was actually the number one tight end over Dalton Kincaid before he left for the NFL.
Mhm.
Brant Kuithe is a machine. If he and Cam Rising start to connect, they're going to be deadly because they brought back a lot of talent as well, or they brought in some new talent. Dorian Singer out of USC, who was elite at Arizona. He was elite at USC. He's an elite receiver that the Utes have not had for a long, long time. They have Micah Pittman, who came up from he was at Florida State and Oregon. Very good player. He was injured a lot last year. If he stays healthy, man, that receiving core is going to be fantastic. Have a lot of running backs coming back with a lot of experience. The defense is mostly returning as well. They do lose safety Cole Bishop. I'm probably going too much detail for folks. As you can tell, I love this team. I think they win the Big 12. I think this is their year to make some noise, and I have them coming at the number 3 spot out of the Big 12 in the first year in the playoff.
Yeah, I love that pick. Going back to 2022, very first game of the season, Utah made the trip down to Florida here. You guys also made the trip down. We went up there to Gainesville to watch the game. Incredible atmosphere, incredible game. Probably the game of the decade for me. That was so much fun. But Keithy, he had 8 or 9 receptions, close to 200 yards, a touchdown. He was really incredible. And then we went out to Utah to watch the game last year. Those fans, they're very passionate, waving those flags, and they're just going nuts. Very strong fan base. I love to see what they can do this year in the playoffs.
You had to bring up the game at the Swamp.
I
I was
had
wiping
to. I'm a
tears from
true
my
Gator
eyes.
fan at heart.
Yeah, I was wiping tears from my eyes. It was a tough game. It was on the goal line interception at the last second. I know Florida fans were loving it. You fans were crying in the stands. Luckily, we end up having a good year anyway. But yeah, that was a tough game. I think that this is Kyle Whittingham. I think he retires after this year if they win a playoff game. He's so anyway. I hope all these predictions come to fruition. So number two. Who do you have coming at number two?
Number two, I have the Oregon Ducks. They've been very successful in the past years. They haven't had a national championship yet, but I think this year could be the year, or within the next coming years. I think they have a very legitimate shot. They have a tough conference in the Big Ten this year, but I think they win that, and I have them sliding in at number two.
Yeah, I also have the Oregon Ducks at number two. I love what Dan Lanning has done at Oregon. I hate to say that because he has pummeled Utah, they pummeled him last year. The year before was a close game, but he won both times he played them. Dan Lanning is a great coach. Comes out of Georgia, out of the SEC. Really knows how to recruit. He's somebody you can believe in. They also were able to recruit Dylan Gabriel out of Oklahoma, where he played very well to
Mhm.
come up to Oregon. I think he's gonna be a great fit for that system. As we saw with Bo Nix, I think Dan Lanning knows how to get the most out of his players and take guys and maximize their potential. I think Dylan Gabriel has a lot of potential still in the tank that we haven't seen yet. This Oregon team has players all over the place, a lot of returning players that were very young last year, freshmen and sophomores. And now we're moving up to, guys in the middle of their careers in college. I think the Oregon Ducks win the Big Ten. I think that they are a have a chance of winning the whole thing as well. Oregon, yeah,
Yeah, great pick, of course. It's a great point bringing up Dylan Gabriel. I think he's going to be very successful at Oregon. I think he's got a legitimate chance to win the Heisman as well. If not, I think he's going to finish in the top five in that race. So Oregon's going to make some noise this year, so watch out for them.
yeah. And that Nike money helps.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, so last but not least, number one, I have the Georgia Bulldogs.
Okay.
They're going to have a very tough schedule this year. They go to Alabama, they go to Texas, they go to Ole Miss, and have a tough schedule, tough road schedule. I think they're actually going to lose to Texas this season on the road, but I think they're going to rematch in the SEC championship. I think Georgia's going to get the revenge after last season losing to Alabama, having their clear shot to that number one seed, and then getting bumped to number five. I think they're out for revenge this year. I think they're going to win it all. I think they're going to slide in at number one.
Okay. I don't hate that pick. Like I mentioned, I have Georgia in the playoff. I think it's going to be it's anybody's guess as to who might win the SEC this year. I also think have Georgia losing to Texas. That's why I had them slated behind Texas in my rankings. And at number one, I also have an SEC team. I have the Alabama Crimson Tide. Alabama with Kalen DeBoer coming in, his record has been phenomenal everywhere he has gone. I watched him turn around the Washington program we all did the last couple years. that after Chris Peterson left was in shambles, was a shell of its former self, and he immediately turned them into contenders within the Pac-12, and was able to take them to the national title game last year. I mean, he took Michael Penix Jr., who was, probably not going anywhere in his career at Indiana, and brought him into Washington, and now he's playing phenomenal in the pros. I mean, this guy really knows how to coach a team. He knows how to coach up talent. I believe he's going to do the same thing at Alabama. That cupboard is not bare. Jalen Milroe is back. If he can make Jalen Milroe a more efficient passer, look out, because Jalen Milroe had a hard time throwing the ball, and defenses knew it, and they still won a ton of games last year. So I just look at it, and I think Alabama's the number one seed, and that's how. So those are our picks for the playoff. Out of these teams, we're not going to go through each bracket and how we think it'll pan out. We'll do that as we get closer to the actual playoff, when we have the actual teams in there. Um, who do you have in the national title game, Skylar, and who do you have winning the whole thing?
Yeah, so I have my 1 and 2 teams in Georgia and Oregon. I have them playing for it all in the national championship. I have Georgia taking it home in a very close game against Oregon. Like I said last year, I still think they were the best team in college football last year. I think that loss to Alabama was the worst game they had all season, and they still only lost by 3, but that was enough to knock them out of the playoffs. And then they go and absolutely destroy Florida State in their bowl game in the Orange Bowl. So I think they're back this year. They're a very strong team, very strong defense. They bring back Carson Beck. I have them winning it all.
Nice. Okay. I I uh I like the pick. It's a solid pick. I think a lot of folks would agree with you. For me, I'm going with a little bit of a homer pick here. I have the Utah Utes and the Alabama Crimson Tide playing for the national title. And I think, okay, my brain tells me that Alabama will win that matchup. My heart is telling me that somehow Utah pulls it out. Kyle Whittingham retires after this season, uh, getting a trophy that equals his ability to coach. I mean, this man has done more with less talent than I think almost any coach in the country. Taking 2 and 3 star guys and putting them in the NFL consistently from the time he was a defensive coordinator in the mid '90s all the way up through the present. He has just found a way to find those diamonds in the rough and make them starters in the NFL. I think he has the most loaded team he's ever had, and I think that they win a matchup in the title game against Alabama. So there you have it.
I love that. That'd be great to see Utah getting another national championship. It's going to be a lot of fun this season. Big bringing in the 12-team playoff, a lot of key games. That's going to be another episode, so stay tuned. But it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a great season.
Can't wait to discuss it with you, and thanks everybody for tuning in.